That's how real it gets, guys. Man really can't even go live anymore and discuss basic topics with you without it being politicized, without my live stream being locked off. Because listen, let me tell you this, guys. I paid my Wi-Fi bill and my Wi-Fi is strong. You get me? There's no reason for my connection to be disconnected and cut off like this. Let me say that again. There is no reason for my live to be getting locked off like that. But welcome back. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Let me say that again. I've paid my Wi-Fi bill, so there ain't no reason for my Wi-Fi to be locking off. You know? But to finish off what I was saying so passionately before, is every single law that has been created for the so-called protection and for the empowerment of Black, African, Caribbean, melanated people, no matter what country or where it has been, the same people who created the law went on to break the law. So no, I will not continue to have patience for things like that. Okay? If you can, or if anybody can show me an actual law that has been upheld for the protection of Black people and it was seriously upheld, I will eat my hat. In fact, no, I won't eat my hat. I will, because I don't have a hat. I don't wear them no more. But my point is, there isn't any. So guys, as well, for those who don't know, we're doing cooking and conversations. One sec, let me put that back in there. Cooking and conversations. Blah, 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 blah. Boom, pin that, pin that, pin that, pin that. Alright. I'm not going to bring anybody live with me simply because my live gets locked off. Like, I'm not allowed to interact with people. Let me see what the questions say. Did Kushites and Persians fight together? Yes, they did. Now let me tell you a little bit more about this Persian history and background and things like that. So, basically, one second. So basically, in answer to that question, yes, Persians and Kushites did fight together. And the reasons why they fought together are two reasons. The first reason is very simple, okay? The first reason is the fact that the Persian army around 800 BCE, around 800 years before Christ, okay, the Persian army were getting stronger. They were about this life. The Persian army was so strong that at points and periods in time, they were actually able to control parts of ancient Kemet, okay? Around this time here, we're talking around what's called the 25th dynasty, all right? And the Persian people, anyway, like I said, had become so strong and had become such a force to be reckoned with that they were able to go down into Kush, or Nubia as we call it, and they were able to, because Kush was not one kingdom, it was a group of many different Kushite people. They were able to hire mercenary Kushite groups and even enslave some of them and take them with them and have them be part of their army. And for those who don't understand what I mean by that, all you have to do is look at the blueprint for the Roman army, okay? Because the Roman army did the same thing. They went all across the world, annexing countries, and then making their people fight for their army. Okay, so what I'm telling you isn't anything radical or outrageous or new or anything like that. Like, it's really been done. Okay, so what this means is, because the people of Kush are culturally cousins to the people of ancient Kemet, there was actually periods of time where you might have actually found that people who knew each other through trade agreements would have had to fight against each other, because the Persians are hiring Kushite mercenaries and then going to war with the people of ancient Kemet. Do you understand? Let me see a next question. What am I cooking? So I'm gonna cook lentil and bean stew, and I'm gonna put obviously the Jamaican twist on there. There's gonna be dumpling. I'm gonna have some roti. There's gonna be some plantain. Quick question: is it plantain or plantain? If it's plantain, let me see a A. If it's plantain, let me see a B. So is it plantain or plantain? Huh? Annoying. I kind of need to concentrate on this food, otherwise ain't nothing gonna get done. So is it just drop the cookbook. I'm not the person you want to be having a cookbook from, because my cookbook will just give you really random blasé instructions like stir it till it's cooked. But I'm just chopping up my garlic, because like I said, we don't cook if there is no onion or no garlic. Who are you even trying to cook for? But people I've noticed as well then have been asking quite a bit about Soros, Bill Gates. They're asking about, I guess, the agenda that's going on at the moment, what my thoughts and feelings are about that. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. My thoughts and feelings on what is going on at the moment in relation to Soros, in relation to man like Bill Gates. I think the most interesting thing that you should notice right now is just how vocal Bill Gates has been about the lockdown procedures and the quarantining and the essential requirement to find this vaccine. And then over this last 7 days, we ain't heard a single peep from this brother. We haven't heard a single peep from this brother. So where is Bill Gates at the moment? Why is he not putting out public warnings to everybody about how important it is that despite how emotional we are and how upset we are, that we should be considering our health and that we should be inside? Why are we not getting those messages from our governments and from our health officials? Do you know why? It's because all of this is part of the agenda. So what is the agenda? Now I can only give you and tell you what the agenda is based on my opinion and based on my perception and understanding of what has been going on. So everything that I'm about to say to you is not supposed to be gospel. In fact, we don't believe the gospel, so I don't even know why anybody says that. But what I'm supposed to say, or what I'm about to say to you now, is not empirical inherent facts. What they are observations that I've been able to make that you are able to go and look at for yourself and then do two research and do two little looking into it and find out what I'll go on for that. Because here's the other thing, guys, before I give you my opinions. Here's the other thing that really frustrates me about social media platforms and things of this nature. What really frustrates me and saddens me and almost hurts me a little bit is the lack of get up and go drive from the average person to actually find out more information for themselves. Like, everybody talks the hardest about, yeah, how I do all of this research. And then when you actually ask people, well, what research have you done? From time you turn around and tell me the only research that you've done is you watched a Netflix documentary. You didn't do no research. You didn't do no research. You didn't do no research, okay? Watching a documentary should be part of your research. Watching a documentary was you just chilling and relaxing and taking the easy option. Now, that's not to say that watching documentaries isn't great and is not going to provide you with a great insight into the world and how things are going on, because it really does. One of my greatest awakenings is because of a documentary, and that documentary was called Earthlings. Has anybody seen Earthlings? Has anybody here seen Earthlings? Earthlings is responsible, like I said, for my greatest awakening. But without a shadow of a doubt, it is the worst documentary I have ever seen in my life. And when I say worst, I mean it was the worst because it was the best. It was the most impactful. That documentary, I didn't even watch the full thing. I couldn't. Do you know why I couldn't watch it? It's because it was so factual. Okay? So for those who don't know, Earthlings is a documentary about the human connection with animals. The human connection with animals. So it doesn't just discuss food. It talks about the healthcare industry and how animals are used for testing. It talks about the clothing industry and again how animals are oppressed and brutalized for their furs. It talks about the pharmaceutical industry and how the animals are continually tested on. It was all of these different things about pets and how animals are treated as pets. So all of these different things. Now, the reason why for me it was such an amazing documentary, and I'll tell you the effect that it had on me. I was already planning on going vegan at the time. I decided that I was going to go vegan at the end of that month. And then somebody told me to watch Earthlings. And then as I'm watching Earthlings, about 30 minutes into the documentary, I realized how disgusting human beings were. I realized how disgusting human beings were and just how much I just could not be part of that anymore. So instead of going vegan at the end of the month, I threw out all of the food that I had in my... well, I didn't throw it, actually. I give it away to some people that I know would work with it and that. And I just went vegan that day. And despite the fact that it was difficult, you know, trying to find out things to replace, I realized that my satisfaction does not outweigh or supersede the suffering of something else. And the reason why I can see that animals suffer is because I have eyes, I have a heart, I have basic, you know, human emotions. I've seen animals replicate those same human emotions. I'm sure many of you would have seen the David Attenborough documentaries where you've seen the elephants cry when the elephant lost its newborn. From time that animals have these sentient feelings like we have sentient feelings, I'm sorry, but there is no excuse for your satisfaction to be put over the suffering of others. And that's why it was a great documentary for me, because it completely changed and challenged the way that I thought and felt about life. Now I'm sorry, but going back to the point, sorry, because I've kind of come off point a little bit, is what do I think about Soros? What do I think about Bill Gates? What do I think about the agenda? And what is my opinion? Well, the reason I got off track there is I wanted to let people know that for as much as Instagram is here to be a beacon and a place for you to be updated and a place for you to be able to receive new information and be empowered, well, it's also your responsibility to be contributing to that. Because everybody has the ability everybody has skills, knowledge, and wisdom which can be transferred and be beneficial to other people. Now, if all you're doing when you're coming onto social media is posting your little selfies, then you're actually being quite selfish. Because in the grand scheme of things, all you're doing is you're coming into this platform and you're taking, but you're not contributing anything intellectually or progressive to the rest of the party. And now that's not fair. Because, and if you were to turn around and say, well, I don't know anything, well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I have never ever been, it's the conversations which you don't expect to have that end up teaching you the most. Let me say that again. It's the conversations which you don't expect to have that end up teaching you the most. That's how I found it for me anyway. You know, on the bus, that booky looking old man who smells a little bit is trying to talk to you, and then you're like, you know what, let me be sociable and see what go on. What go on, uncle? And he's like, oh, do you know what, back in my day we used to do this and do this and da-da-da-da-da. And then you've just been given some wisdom, you've just been given some game that you've never had before, like. But anyway, to the actual point, What do I think about the current agenda? What are my feelings about it, and what do I think is going on? So I think that to do this in a nice and roundabout way, we can't just talk about this year. We cannot just talk about this year. Everything that has been going on, has been in motion for a very, very long time. Let me say that again. Everything that is going on at the moment has been going on for a very, very long time. Okay? For them to have such control over the feelings, the sentiment, and the reaction of the people, just like they do today, it takes many, many years of conditioning and putting things in place for this to happen. Now, obviously, we don't have the time, nor do I have the energy or information to go into every single thing that's led to the situation that we're in here today. But I want to touch on a few things. So those things would be, you know, of course, if we want to go real deep, yeah, this anti-black sentiment that we have across the Western world did not begin when slavery ended. It didn't start in 1492 when Christopher Columbus found America. It started in 711. Who can tell me what is special about the year 711? Who can tell me what is special about the year 711? In my opinion, it is in the year 711 where the world anti-black sentiment really began. And what happened in 711 was the Moors of North Africa entering into South Europe, into Spain, and colonizing the area and renaming it Al-Andalus, okay? And for 700 years, African people were in control of this southern European region, and it was a controlling portion as well. Now, the reason why this is significant is because we know from history that when the African people, when the Moors came up into Europe, okay, Europe was experiencing a dark age. They'd been experiencing a plague. So when African people came up, African people were introducing them to societally changing things, such as hygiene. Real talk. I'm not saying this to be confrontational and to be provocative. European people did not clean themselves very often before 711. And let me tell you why. It's because a lot of the water that they were dealing with was cold, and they're in cold areas, okay? A lot of people would wash themselves and not dry themselves properly, and they would get pneumonia, and they would get sick, and they would die. And when they died, the people around them would blame the water, because the water was said to carry bad spirits, which is what killed them. So people didn't wash very often. Okay, this is a tradition which carried on for a long time. It's where the saying, throw it out with the baby and throw the baby out with the bathwater, because the water would be so damn dirty because everybody's been using that same water to wash for weeks and all day. You know? So, anyway, the anti-black sentiment of European people began around 711. And I'll tell you some other characteristics of what was going on in Europe before Moors got there, okay? The type of Christianity which was popping off in Europe at the time was called Visigoth. It's called Visigoth. Visigoth Christianity is where that whole Gothic, almost, satanic looking, statuesque, symbolism comes from within Christianity, right? And they were very morbid, right? They were very morbid. And the people of Europe at the time were going through a Great Depression. As I said, they'd just come off the back of the Black Plague. Yeah? So when Moors had come up, they were practicing religious tolerance. Okay? So when the Moors were taking over certain areas, Seville, Cordoba, they were saying, fine, if you want to be a Christian still, that's cool, but we're Muslim and we're gonna do what we're doing. You know, we've got Moors who are Christians, Moors who are Jewish. We have Moors which are religious tolerance was the point. Anyway, over the course of this 700 years, whilst Moors were in different areas of Europe, they developed an advanced European society. So, for example, the Moors introduced the Europeans to various different trade routes on the ocean, which opened up their economy. Now, check this. The same commodities like oranges, saffron, and certain types of rice and citrus fruits, which are renowned to come out of Spain as their main exports, are all items which were introduced to their agricultural economy by Moors. So, what I'm saying to you is, the same thing that keeps this Spain, in particular, the same thing that keeps Spain economically afloat today is the same thing that was introduced to them by African people. Citrus fruits, certain types of rice, saffron, and what was the other thing that I said? I can't remember now. My mind just went blank. But anyway. This whole cooking at the same time thing didn't go down very well in it. I'm not a cooking host, guys. You get me? I just thought it would be fun. So what you do, by the way, is obviously you chop up your onions, chop up your garlic, fry it up, add your lentils to it, and then add all your seasoning and give it a mix. I'm going to give it a mix and then I'm going to bring you in. But adding on to what I was saying about the anti-black sentiment, okay, the anti-black sentiment, Europe prospered under African rule, okay? Europe prospered under African rule. All you have to go and do is look at the rich history of architecture, music, culinary culture. All you have to do is look at the economic stability of Europe over that period of time. And this was all due and responsible and thanks to the intellectual property of North African people. Now, here's the problem. Here's where the bad blood starts to come into play. Now, naturally, as Europeans, different European nations wanted to regain and they wanted to take back control of their nations, right? So around 1492, and it happened a little bit before this, okay? There was two royal families, okay? And they were headed up by somebody called Ferdinand and Isabella. They were actually cousins. They end up getting married and they unify together to basically fight to ethnically cleanse Europe. Okay, this period of time was called the Expulsion of the Moriscos. Let me say that again. This period of time was called the Expulsion of the Moriscos. You can see artwork of this period of time where you see a contemporary artist has pitched up and he is at a port and you can see hundreds of African people being chased out of the ports. Now check this. Okay, here's a great thing. As the Moors were all being kicked out of Europe, okay, I think it was a king from Constantinople or one of the rulers from Constantinople had heard that the Europeans, the Catholics, the Christians were kicking out all of the Moors, and Constantinople sent a whole heap of ships to come and pick up all of the Moors who were being kicked out, which I thought was dope. But anyway, my reasoning for talking about this, where anti-black sentiment comes from, okay? The anti-black sentiment comes from the fact that these European people have been brought up out of darkness. This is what it is. This is not my opinion. This is a historical statement. They were brought up out of darkness in 7